I have so much Death Note vibes from this episode. Am I the only one? Did anyone else not get that Kira and Type L conversation going on in this episode? When you saw Shibazaki talking through the camera on the live stream, it reminded me of the entire instances of the first episode of Death Note, when you see L talking through the freaking camera, and you see Kira just laughing from the background and seeing him talk for the first time. That's exactly what this episode reminded me of. Oh my god, this series, oh my god, it's so good. It's so good. It is. I haven't seen an intelligent series like this in such a long time. Seriously, the way they're setting up everything, the way they're doing character development, the way they're setting up the fucking atmosphere and mood. The color palettes of the series, the way they do the shading with the dark vibes and dark themes and colors, it really contrasts the entire mood and atmosphere of the series. And then you have these epic fucking characters like Shibazaki. Well, what we pretty much had this entire episode focused on him, seeing more develop on him, finding out more about his backstory, and at the same time his motivation to hunt down 9 and 12. Really, really fantastic. It is. This series is fucking amazing. There's a bunch of people right now stating that this is the anime of the season, most likely the anime of the year, which I'm not going to say at this moment it's the anime of the year, but so far from this season, this is by far the most intelligent series of this year. So far. Because the level of thought and process you have to put into each individual episode to understand what is going on is phenomenal. For instance, the way they're mixing in like Greek mythology with Japanese, Asian mythology, and at the same time they're able to make it like coexist, and at the same time the way they talk about bringing up the names, the different things, the meanings behind the names, and the past of these mythological gods really just shocks me. Because something like this, honestly, the way you're seeing these mythological factors or Greek mythology or Asian culture stuff with their past, with their gods, and seeing how it's being brought into this series, it really adds an entirely different level of thinking to this series, because they're not just using the witty mind games that we see in others, like, I guess, cat and mouse type detective fighting we see in anime like this. No. They're actually adding in some major riddles that really get the brain thinking, and it really just turns the entire house on top of itself when you finally figure out these riddles. For instance, in this episode, it was the first victory for the police. That's exactly what it was. The first victory for the entirety of Tokyo, winning against 9 and 12. Now, this is a first big step. But at the same time, 9 and 12 really do not seem to be worried at all about their entire bombing plan being revealed. Actually, for instance, they're leaving evidence each time they try to bomb a certain place, or each time they blow up something, they leave some form of evidence, and they're doing it purposely, because these are terrorists, 9 and 12, that have blown up buildings, they've covered themselves, their tracks, they've, like, infiltrated into the FBI database and actually added themselves as fake names to be able to go into that one nuclear facility to steal the plutonium, and so it shows you that they're at a level that's really intelligent. So they're not just leaving evidence because they're carelessly looking over it. No, they're leaving evidence there to show their motive, their in-game goal. And I love that. I love how they're doing that. But the big thing that pops up is we do need to know more about their motive. We still don't know 9 and 12's motive. We know they had a rough past. We see that once again in this episode. We find out the reasoning behind 9 and 12's name. Supposedly from this girl that was talking in this facility, this concentration camp, she stated that, like, names are for people that are loved, okay? And we find out that she says, you're people that are not loved. Your parents abandoned you, all that, so you don't need a name. And so she assigns them new names, most likely like 1, 2, 3, 4, you know, stuff like that. So it shows you where they got their name, and they probably no longer actually remember their name. So I wonder where they originated from. I wonder where 9 and 12 really came from. I mean, where were they living before they got put in that concentration camp or facility, and then they went to this point to where they wanted to blow up Tokyo? So, a lot of things going on. Really good things. This series, man, it's really rare to see a series make you have to think. Sometimes, or a majority of times, anime just handholds you the entire way. Like, you have your hand grabbed and you're being drugged through the fucking anime. Like, here's the story, here's the plot, here's what's going down, here's A, B, and C, so forth. You get what I'm saying? But no! Zankyou no Terror, it's completely not followed the rules at all when it comes to the development of its plot and story. For instance, it's not just thinking that its audience is dumb and holding its hand. It's actually looking at you and saying, you're an intelligent human fucking being, you have a brain, and so we're not just gonna give you the answers of the series. You're gonna have to look at these key little signs in the course of the series to understand what is going on, which is really fucking stunning, because that's exactly what this is doing. This is my type of series. I may love my gore and violence and stuff like that, psychological, but when an anime makes me have to think at the level of, like, Death Note, for instance, that is when it's getting good. It is. This series, man, is fucking good. It really is. I may be over-exaggerating, I guess. Some people probably think, oh, I'm over-exaggerating, it's not that good. But what makes this series so good is because it's an anime original. It's not even a manga or a light novel. It's an anime original, so nobody knows how the plot will go. And technically, there's no way you can ruin the source adaptation since there was no original source. This is an anime original series, and so it can't be ruined by rushing and pacing problems. Well, actually, no, I take it back. It can be ruined by pacing and rushing problems, but not at the level of to where they literally cut fucking arcs out of a series. And so I have high hopes for this series. I really, really do. This episode and these past episodes should show you the level of intelligence this series is at, and that is why I think this series is getting so much recognition by so many people in the anime community, because it's a type of series that a lot of fans have been looking for a long time, because it's so vastly different from these moe anime we get constantly every fucking season that's littered through every anime season, like 10 to 15 anime that's nothing but moe. This is finally a series that takes anime up another notch, goes up for the mature audiences, and at the same time gives you a level of intelligence to where you can actually feel satisfied after watching an episode. So, everybody, tell me your thoughts on this episode of Zankyou no Terror. What do you feel about finding out more about Shibazaki this episode? What do you feel about his past? For instance, the entire factor of how his family was in Hiroshima, and he has a bad past with his family in the entire nuclear bombing back in World War. Well, how do you feel about that? Also, what do you feel about finding out that the reason why Shibazaki got put into the archives is because he was running a case, which is kind of standard, actually. This is probably one of the most cliche things I think I've seen so far from this series, but it's not bad. The way they introduced it really adds depth to Shibazaki's character. For instance, we find out that he was hunting down this diet company, or this diet president, whatever his name was called. Supposedly he was for, like, the police station. He was working in the police station, and he went rogue, I'm guessing part of a gang organization, and he tried to hunt him down. And so Shibazaki never got to, like, uncover the case he was searching for. Like, he never got to finish it, and it never was answered. And so he was depressed and demoted it into the archives because he was probably overworking himself to figure out the case that was already closed. And so I have a feeling most likely this case that Shibazaki is trying to figure out is going to be directly linked to 9 and 12's Terrorist Act, what they're doing right now. So everybody, tell me your thoughts about this episode. What do you feel about Shibazaki? Since this episode technically was focused on him, how do you feel about his character after knowing a little bit more about him? Let me know how you feel about this series. Do you feel like the series is going to become the anime of the season? Is it going to retain that status? Let me know in the comments below. I love all of you so much. Please be safe. Chibi out.